from here.
Looks like everything came out just fine.
That's an amazing feat. I mean, that driver, bravo, because you know that, what was going through his or her mind when that was happening.
Another reason why winter is dangerous and ice is the worst.
I know.
Period. End of story.
And we still have some right now.
We do. So let's talk about this here with our stool.
Precipitation you're going to get today, and it is going to be changing. So Pittsburgh, 41 degrees. We've got rain, but just to the north of there today, we are again starting at about 32, some of you 33, and this whole zone in northern Pennsylvania, southern New York will have that mixed precip, some freezing rain, some sleet, and then to the north of that we'll get some snow, but then we'll be getting through that changeover because the warmer air is going to be coming in. So winter weather advisories abound all across this area. It goes through tomorrow, that includes the Capital District and down through Poughkeepsie. It doesn't include New York City or the tri-state or even Eastern Mass and Boston or Providence. So there it is going to be mild enough that it's just rain, and that's where we start. But look at all these other spots where anywhere the pink or the coral color is showing, these are the spots where we're going to be watching for the mixed precip types. Again, Pittsburgh safely above freezing, we're fine, but not too far north of there, your temperatures are right about 32. And I know Pennsylvania and, the rolling hills, all the places where the cold air can kind of settle in. Those are the spots which could be problematic with freezing rain on the roads for a little bit longer before those temperatures do warm up. So that's what we'll see through this afternoon. Again, got to watch those little trouble spots. You see places like Binghamton. It takes a while until we get above freezing, not until overnight tonight. New York City, again, we stay above. That's good. Boston, we get a little snow out there. It doesn't last that long. We never really get into the freezing rain, and then we turn over to all rain. In fact, most of us changing over to rain. Quick look at Boston here, finish you up, showing you where get a little burst of snow comes later today. Into the overnight here, we could get, some light accumulations. But the fact is our temperatures are on a warming trend. And so we'll get the snow and then we'll change over to rain pretty quickly as we get through the day on Friday or Wednesday. And then we're warm. No more sub-freezing for us here. Snowfall, Greg, on the lighter side, 1 to 3 inches.
Yes, we'll take that.
The storm reports from yesterday. Here we go from the Bay Area, all across the state. We had some rainfall, and some of it quite heavy with all the flooding reports there. And of course, down into Southern California, in and around the San Diego area, where the amount of rainfall we had, it wasn't just the fact that it fell in a day, it's that a lot of this fell in less than 6 hours, which really added to the problems. It ended up being our record wettest January day on record with 2.73 inches of rain. It was our 4th wettest all-time day on record. And basically, it's like a third of our year's rain in, just a short period of time. So significant. Now, here's the next one coming in. You can see with this one, the moisture, the atmospheric river associated with it, the little pops of energy too spinning out there. So we've got a number of little pieces of energy that will send more moisture here into the West Coast. This happens as we get through the week, actually through the rest of the week, even into the weekend. We're going to see some rain chances adding up all the way from Washington, Oregon, down through California. You'll see some of the big totals, easily 3 to 5 inches. 5 to 8 in spots where you get that most persistent moisture coming on in. And snowfall, there's a significant amount of moisture coming in, but snow levels are just so high. We're talking above 7,000 or 8,000 feet. So we'll be adding snowpack up there, but not down to the lower levels, Greg.
Well, Jen, a warm-up looks to walk.
Or at the very least, we're going to get a changeover from snow to rain. Now, our virtual view technology takes me to Boston Common, where they'll see the midweek warm-up here replace that wintry mix of rain and snow. We'll get over to mostly rain showers coming on in. Boston, look, we had a cold stretch. We finally warmed up above freezing yesterday after spending nearly 6 days below freezing. However, now we're on a warming stretch. That kind of cold hasn't happened in a while, not in the last 2 winters. So, you guys felt it. That was sort of a real winter kind of situation where it was cold, it was snowy. Now we're right back into the warm with this pattern, and it's a ridge in our jet stream. It's sending temperatures above average. No Arctic air to be found, even in the west, where yes, we're not getting the big old ridge, but we're not getting the Arctic air either. So watching our disturbance as it heads into the northeast interact with that warm air means we're going to get a forecast like this. Rain comes into Cincinnati Wednesday night and Thursday. Temperatures are going to be in the mid-50s. So yes, it's it's going to be mild. But no, Alex, folks might not be calling you out sick to enjoy that weather because it's just going to be kind of soggy. We see the rain come in Wednesday. Look at this, lifting up here, even to Chicago. Now, there'll be a little area where you got to watch temperatures sub-freezing at the surface. There might be some freezing rain. It should be pretty short-lived. But, you know, again, on Thursday, next surge of moisture comes up. We got to watch that again, just in the northern edge of where we see this precip, where that cold air kind of holds on, again, especially at low levels. Rainfall amounts are going to be up to an inch in most spots here. We'll get some heavier numbers, bigger amounts coming in across Kentucky, maybe up into Ohio. I think that could make a mess of things out there because we do have cold, frozen ground, snowpack on the ground. You put rain on top of that, it makes it very sloppy and sometimes can lead to some flooding. Now, disturbance sliding into the northeast, coming our way again with temperatures warming in that big ridge. It's going to mean that we see a lot more rain than we see any wintry precip. New York City, it means rain for us Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, with warm temperatures in the 50s. North of all this, though, because that moisture is coming in and invecting over the cold ground, and you got warm air on top of cold. It's a recipe for freezing rain.
Yeah, we certainly saw a lot of that yesterday. It's still finding a bit of that here this morning. Maybe not as widespread, but we still have some pockets of that is ongoing. Parts of Pennsylvania, Ohio, then working into northern Illinois and southern sections of Wisconsin.
Yes, all right. So a closer view, you can see where temperatures are at freezing, like in Buffalo, and where they're not in Cleveland. I mean, 2 degrees makes all the difference.
It really does. So, yeah, you want to be northward of 32 to be in the better scenario, right? I mean, it's not great in either case, but you'd rather have just plain old rain than the freezing rain.
We do have winter weather advisories out, even in places like Cleveland, because no doubt there are pockets of maybe some of that freezing rain or mixed precip nearby, and they extend up through Grand Rapids and Detroit and all the way over into the northeast as well.
Now, there is going to be an area where we see mostly the snow getting a chance to add up. Not a ton. I mean, in the order of maybe 1 to 3 inches of additional snow along the swath of snow that we find.
And, you know, temperatures aren't crazy cold either. So 1 to 3 inches of snow might not be that big of a deal. It's the freezing rain, which will create some of the big travel problems. And even just the rain itself falling on frozen ground, mixing in with the snow and storm drains, that can cause some clogs, basically.
Absolutely. So be on the lookout for that. You'll see as we work through the afternoon hours and into the evening, some snow creeping now into sections of the northeast. So a lot of us actually start off having to deal with the snow, and then we see some transitioning taking place. Watch some freezing rain, maybe getting down into the southern portions of the Hudson Valley for tomorrow morning before transitioning to rain.
Yeah, it'll be that kind of day in Boston where you'll have some snowflakes at the beginning, and then throughout the day, that atmospheric battle happening, and you change over to all rain. Albany, looking at your forecast, we do start with some snow. This is through the later hours today. Temperatures aren't going to be terribly cold, but cold enough to get us, you know, maybe an inch or 2.
Just enough. And then switch happens. We warm it up and we go over to the rain. So overall, we'll find, again, the snow totals not huge here, certainly for this part of the country. 1 to 3, maybe elevation adds maybe another inch or 2 into that. But overall, not a huge...
2023 was the Earth's hottest year on record, according to NOAA's State of the Climate report. Globally, more than 800 all-time record highs and record warm lows were set. And overall, the last 10 years mark the hottest years on record. Ocean temps hit record highs last year and likely was a big factor driving the global warmth. And although we're dealing with extreme cold and snow this month, 2024 could still end up warmer than last year. Meteorologist Stephanie Abrams dives into the connections between warming oceans and the weather patterns on land. To expand their alert levels. The scale went to 2 levels. Now they had to expand it to 5 because the warming is just that extreme, more than we've ever seen previously.
And when you start having to change scales, you know we're dealing with some issues.
So the analogy that we brought up was that maybe it's like changing the Saffir-Simpson scale.
I mean, that's the intensity and sort of pervasiveness of the warming that we've seen. And of course, it has direct impacts, as you just saw right there. Now, when we look at the current state of the winter, December was very warm. We're about to turn into a warm stretch again, but we did have a little cold snap. Those little details, it's not the overall pattern, right? That's just the weather forecast, not the climate.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because when we look back on this winter, more than likely it will end up being a warm winter, despite this week or 2 of really cold.
Exactly.
And the other thing, too, is globally, even though the United States was dealing with extremely cold temperatures for a 1 to 2 week period, the rest of the globe was warmer than average. So in the balance, it was not even close.
Yeah. Well, we're about to get warm again.
We sure are. Millions and millions, over 200 million, in fact, over the next couple of days. We'll be looking for those high temperatures to get above average.
We see it already. Numbers are going up. Forecast highs today, a lot warmer than you were just this weekend.
Yeah, we're recovering. And, with that comes problems like back in, and it creates problems. But eventually that warm air is going to win.
Yeah, it is going to win in a big way, right? All the coldest of the coldest, that's essentially going to be hanging well to the north. You got to head north of the border to get into the really cold stuff. And the lingering cold, as you mentioned, Dr. Postel, that just likes to be stubborn. Even that's going to start to get scoured out a bit, too.
It will. And, over time, that's going to happen. When you look at the late week temperatures at the surface, we're going to be way above average in southern Canada, where temperatures not long ago were way below average.
Right. So across the country, even in spots where you might have a dip in the jet stream, you're still not going to be cold. There's just no Arctic air to be found.
I have a question. How the heck did it get to be in the 70s in Raleigh, North Carolina this week? 70s? Are you kidding me? It's
that's
January.
a huge turnaround.
I mean, folks have asked the question, is winter over? Is that what we get, 2 weeks of winter?
Maybe.
Is that the new normal? I don't know.
Maybe.
But that is kind of wild, though, to think about it, how warm it's going to be. As you mentioned, Virginia, if this was April, March, all right, we can kind of, but January.
Statistically, the coldest part of the year right now, seeing some 70s in North Carolina.
And look at the Northeast, too. Well, you can learn more. Pattern takes a deep dive into moisture left over from either whether it was snow or whether it was rain that you had recently. Now we're going to be dealing with a lot of moisture coming in on top of that, and the potential is there for flash flooding. So through tomorrow morning, we've got an area from eastern Texas through Louisiana and up into Arkansas that has the chance of flash flooding. Same area, but then expanding it a little bit more now into Alabama, getting from tomorrow morning then into your Thursday morning. And then Thursday to Friday, we keep all of the southeast in it, including the Atlanta area, with that chance of flash flooding. The rain could be that heavy. Now, flood watches for now that go through Thursday include East Texas, a lot of Louisiana, down through Baton Rouge, doesn't include New Orleans, but Jackson, Mississippi, Monroe, we were talking about you, Shreveport, you are under this flash flood watch, and Birmingham is as well, because by tomorrow, we really get into the heaviest of the rain. Lighter stuff out there right now. Same thing happening in Tupelo. Light rain. The heavy stuff is still in Texas, and that's where we actually have a little bit of thunder and lightning included with this rainfall. That's all heading towards Shreveport and Texarkana. Houston area getting into some lighter showers right now, but there will be heavier stuff later today. Some of that rain from Houston up to Huntsville could be just a deluge of rain, and always concerned when we get these kind of rainfall rates in southeast Texas and around the Houston area in particular, that we could have flash flooding. This is through the overnight into tomorrow morning, and we've got rainfall still falling heavily. The tomorrow morning commute could be a mess, but this lasts throughout the day. You see waves of rain coming through even into Thursday. This is going to add up to about 3 to 4 inches of rainfall. And the key thing to watch here will be the rainfall rates. When you start getting into 1 to 2 inches per hour, that's when you get the biggest concern for flash flooding. Right now, we've got dry conditions for you across a lot of Louisiana. Shreveport, the exception, with some rain, but spotty showers. The thing is, it's not completely dry. You saw what it looked like in Monroe. It's kind of foggy. It feels really damp, and the rain is coming into that kind of atmosphere. So right away, everything is going to get saturated, even though we do desperately need rainfall. The drought is on here. We've got extreme and even exceptional drought. But when you get this kind of rain comes in, we're talking inches of rain, 4 or 5 inches of rain, and some of that will be falling at rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour, then you do run the risk of flash flooding, which is something that we'll have to keep an eye on. Let's jump down to New Orleans. Again, you're not under that flood watch just yet, and right now it's just a little foggy. Well, it's a lot foggy right now in New Orleans. We'll take you through today, and there might be a few sprinkles out there. Overall, it's overnight tonight and tomorrow that the rain starts to push in. Tomorrow morning, it's approaching Lafayette and Baton Rouge. New Orleans, we get some showers throughout the day. A lot of it comes in by tomorrow night, giving us some heavy rain that extends into your Thursday morning as well. Alex, we know the problems that big rain can cause, that floodwaters can cause.
Yeah.
For what's ahead.
Weather Channel has you covered, of course, from coast to coast, from north to south. We got it all.
We certainly do. Pick your color on the map, right? We've got the green with the rain. We got some pinks and purples, the wintry mix, some sleet, some freezing rain. How about the blue snow? And what's not on this map, a bit of fog.
A bit of fog. The fog is so widespread. Look at this. Everywhere in yellow, we've got fog advisories.
And you mentioned freezing fog, too. Yeah. So when the fog is out and temperatures are below 32 degrees by a little bit, you can freeze up on any surface, really.
Yeah, I honestly think, despite we've had so many winter storms, it's been so active, but what's happening right now is touching every state in some way, I feel like.
Yeah, way more widespread in terms of the impacts.
Yeah.
Maybe not as hardcore in terms of the punch, but jabs can do damage too.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
This is the recovery from the Arctic air mass that has gripped most of us for the last couple of weeks. It's kind of messy.
It's not coming easy, that's for sure. And we want to talk about that new video that just came into the Weather Channel.
Yes.
The Fire and Rescue, about, you want to spread out your body as much as possible so all of your weight is not in one spot, because that, of course, that's more weight on the ice to go through. So just trying to minimize, all weight in one spot on ice, which you don't know if it's strong enough to hold you.
Yeah, absolutely. So key here, particularly now as we're seeing these warmer numbers starting to creep in, some of these ponds that did kind of ice over a little bit, guess what? We're warming things up. They're going to be even more unstable.
But when the warm comes in, sometimes it happens upstairs, aloft, sooner than it does at the ground, and that can lead to still some freezing and icy conditions. You're going to talk about that in the Midwest.
Yeah,
Freezing
we're
rain.
still dealing with a bit of that. Yeah, we got to get this out of here. And
Getting some light precip out there in spots across western New York and northern Pennsylvania. That's the zone right here, southern New York, northern Pennsylvania, that gets into a little bit of freezing rain potential. Now, it's not a huge event, but as we saw throughout the Midwest and parts of the southern plains and the Mississippi Valley, you only need a little bit to cause big problems. So we're worried about that. Winter weather advisories are up, include State College and Scranton and Wilkes-Barre, Poughkeepsie, New York under that as well. New York City is not, and I'll show you why. Our temperatures are a big part of that. We're sitting at 39 right now, New York City and Boston. So at the moment, not worried about anything frozen. But look at Binghamton, 32. Freezing rain across northern Pennsylvania. I've been watching around the Erie area, around Bradford, Pennsylvania, Du Bois. That's where temperatures are staying right about at the freezing mark. And just knowing Pennsylvania and even southern New York as well, a lot of rolling hills and cold air can get stuck in kind of the nooks and crannies, and that can let the freezing rain hang on for a little bit longer. You kind of see that reflected a little bit in that pink that shows up here in some of the valley locations. That'll be the problem spots through today and even into the overnight and tomorrow. Then we really warm up tomorrow, and everybody does. You can see even Buffalo, we're at 39 degrees. Boston, we're at 37. So we might start to snow in Boston. In fact, we should start to snow in Boston. We will change over to rain. And even the snow that we'll be getting is going to be kind of a wet, probably slushy snow if anything does accumulate on the roadways since our temperatures have warmed up. But by tomorrow afternoon, we are rain in Boston. The snowfall that we'll get, mostly 1 to 3 inches, and it'll be kind of a slushy 1 to 3 inches. And even into the mountains, we're going to be changing over to rain. It's a big warming trend coming here, Greg, and into the south as well.
Yeah, Jen, and that warming trend is...
Heavy rain caused serious flooding in Southern California, submerging San Diego streets, neighborhoods, and businesses, prompting evacuations, water rescues, and the city had to declare a state of emergency. Jonathan Vigliotti with our partners at CBS News is in San Diego with a look at the damage left behind. And what an absolute mess, and what a scary time, too, to be getting all that rain at once. Again, this is not something we have seen in a long time. I'll give you perspective on that, but also something that we don't get very often here with this much rain at once. In California, the flood reports came in all over the state, from the Bay Area, coming down through parts of the Inland Valley, and then, of course, in Southern California, and in particular in and around the San Diego area. Numerous reports of flash flooding from just near Newport Beach all the way down into San Diego. Now, for us in San Diego, the 2.73 inches of rain that we had ended up our wettest January day on record, our 4th wettest day of all time, and our wettest day in about 98 years. I mean, it's significant, and there's more rain coming in this week. So we've got a pretty busy pattern over the Pacific. You can see the extent of moisture kind of pushing toward the coast, little pops of energy out there, storms that will help guide that moisture in, and it's going to keep us on the wet side throughout the rest of the week, actually. So cloudy right now in Portland, but here comes the rain, and that's going to be one of the spots there in western Oregon, western Washington, that we really see the bulk of this moisture pointed, which is going to mean the rainfall amounts are going to add up 3 to 5 inches very easily. Spots get 5 to 8 inches of rain. That will bring flash flooding concerns. There'll be snow, but the snow levels will be very high. This is still a pretty mild system out here as we look ahead to what's coming our way. So the rain comes in through the day on Wednesday, again spreading inland. There'll be some snow inland areas, but then watching the next system, next 2 actually lined up Friday and Saturday ready to go. Greg.
Warm-up looks to wash over the
for the end of the week when it warms up here, because I don't want to go out in the cold right now. But here I am virtually in New York Central Park, where Winter Storm Heather finally busted the snow drought there just last week, ending a streak of 701 days without an inch of snow. But this week's warm-up means that the city will see rain, not snow, as our next winter storm moves on in, just like the rest of them have been, right? Here comes the rain. Some of it could be heavy at times. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But we watch for several days of rain. Temps are going to be in the 40s, so we're not worried about snow. Thursday, actually, we hit 50. By Friday, we're 56 degrees. So, yes, some mild weather coming in. But, no, you're not going to, be out there necessarily wanting to take a walk in the park because it will be raining. Now, we have this big ridge of high pressure driving this. That's going to help our temperatures warm above average. But you look even north of that. There's just no Arctic air to be found. Even in Canada, we are above average. Even in the west, where the jet stream takes a little bit of a dip, we're still above average. So all of the cold air is gone for now. And as we see these disturbances move in, they mainly have warm air to work with. Now, I should put that in quotes because we're warmer than average. There'll be a few spots that actually do get into some snowy chances or even some freezing rain. So we've got to keep an eye well to the north where maybe some cold air gets stuck, especially in the lower levels, and that'll be like in northern Maine. Elsewhere, it's rain. We have rain moving up through St. Louis after yesterday's ice. I know that's got to be welcome. Chicago, we've got rain moving up after yesterday's ice. I know that's welcome. Could there be a little bit of freezing rain on the northern edge of this? Yes, that's a possibility. That happens sometimes with these kind of events where, the warm air overruns. It takes a minute for it to get warm at all levels of the atmosphere. But it's not a big freezing rain event like we just had yesterday. It's about up to an inch in a lot of spots in the Midwest and heading back through, from Springfield, Illinois to Springfield, Missouri. A little more moisture, though, getting up through Kentucky and Ohio. And then that is going to be moving into the Northeast Wednesday into Thursday. Again, some spots get into a little bit of freezing rain, but then the warm air takes over and it becomes all rain for most of us as we get to the end of the week, drying out by the weekend. Have where the rainfall or the moisture is meeting up with the cold air stuck at the surface, and freezing rain is still a problem right now.
Yes, we are seeing some locales having to deal with that. That's the area where you see kind of pinkish shading here, parts of Pennsylvania sliding with a little thin stripe there across southern portions of Michigan and even into a bit of Wisconsin. But we are certainly seeing the improving weather in many areas that have been dealing with the freezing rain as the temperatures have jumped up a notch.
You just needed a couple degrees, Chicago. You got it, 34 degrees. I mean, it's amazing. 34 is not that much different than 32, but it is.
Whole world difference, right?
World's different.
Winter weather advisories through the afternoon. Now, many of these are starting to get kind of chipped away, including there across parts of Illinois, not just a few areas in the northern part of the state, but still in place off towards the east. We'll find a bit of a strip of snow, too, with this.
Yeah, about 1 to 3 inches of snow. Probably more of a slushy kind of snow than the snow that you've had recently. And that'll be north of an area where you still could get a little bit of freezing rain. I mean, look at these temperatures. 33 Detroit, there'll be pockets that are down at 32. Freezing rain.
Exactly. So gotta watch that here through our morning hours. By the afternoon, there you are in Detroit, squarely and firmly above that 32 mark. So a much better scenario. But then again, we do have some of that snow that's going to creep its way across the Northeast, Albany, back over towards even Boston gets into some snow before the transition takes place. It's
possible. In northeastern Pennsylvania, northern Jersey, we get a little freezing rain before we warm up and get into all rain. That happens through the day tomorrow.
All right. How about in and around Albany? That's a spot that'll start off with some snow, maybe a quick burst of some heavy snow for a period, but then it'll lighten up, and then we'll start to see transitioning taking place into our Wednesday, I'd say late morning hours, that will start to take place.
All right, and then it's rain, and then the warm-up is here. 2023 was the Earth's hottest year on record. According to NOAA's State of the Climate report, globally, more than 800 all-time record highs and record warm lows were set. And overall, the last 10 years mark the hottest 10 years on record. Now, ocean temperatures also hit record highs last year and was likely a big factor driving the global warmth. And although we're dealing with some extreme cold and snow this month, 2024 could still end up warmer than last year. Meteorologist Stephanie Abrams dives into the connections between warming oceans and the weather patterns on land. We talk about the warming oceans, the warming climate, and last year being warm overall, and yet we just came out of this cold snap.
Right.
But overall, December was warm. We're about to get warm again, and winters in general have been warming. That's what this map shows us.
The trend, right, is clear, certainly east of the Rockies, and more so in the north than in the south. How about that?
Warmer winters generally getting shorter. All has an impact.
All has an impact on, of course, the economy. We talk about that all the time, but has an impact on health, on agriculture, available water because snowpack is, affected.
And it doesn't happen all at once. And it happens gradually, kind of in the background. So you still get your ups and downs, you get your snowstorms, you get your Arctic outbreaks, but they gradually become fewer and further between.
Yeah. Case in point, we are about to go back into a warm-up. So, yeah, we had a good, 10-day stretch of really cold air and snow and everything that went with it, but we're about to warm up again.
We are. So kind of a fleeting chill that we've got as we head through the next couple of days. You can see population numbers going above 200 million. That'll be seeing highs above average out there, which, again, is a far cry from what we dealt with here the last couple of weeks. But now that warm-up, it is taking place, and it will be in full force.
And some of these numbers are going to be way above average, not just by a little bit.
Right.
So we're not seeing not just a large number of people above average, a large number of people way above average. And look at these numbers at the beginning today. This is only the beginning.
Right. It's already, it's already begun here. You've long forgotten those days where you start off with temperatures and the single digits or teens. They're gone. I mean, we don't see that.
I mean, really, I'm barely seeing that even as you head north of the border. So warming up here in the States, we're going to watch that coldest of the coldest air really retreat and work its way north of the border. And that's basically going to be the case here for us over the next several days. A warming trend. And as you guys have mentioned, this is not just kind of scooting to the warmth. This is like blasting past some of these average highs.
Yeah, we were asking the question, is it going to be record-breaking? It's close. I'm sure there'll be some records. But we were looking at Raleigh, for example, and not quite there.
70s, though, for how about parts of North Carolina, the end of this week, 73 degrees. Just a few days ago, a little bit more than that, maybe we were highs in the low 20s, mid 20s in some places.
Yeah, such a slap in the face with that chill. Now you got to deal with this, sweating it out with temperatures 20+ degrees above average.
Yeah, sweating it out. Pittsburgh, too, though, temps in the 50s. Getting up there, 55 degrees by Thursday.
What is this, like we were talking late March-ish?
Yeah.
If that were happening, you'd be like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
But it is like January where we should be talking about the heart of the coldest of the cold. No.
Yeah.
It's almost like Pittsburgh's having an Atlanta January.
That's right. That's right.
That's kind of what's happening at this point. Well, to learn more about all of this, moisture returning and things are very saturated in the air, and that's going to turn into some rain, which will be quite heavy at times, which is why there's a flash flooding concern. Through tomorrow morning, an area from Lufkin, Texas to Shreveport, almost to Little Rock, that's an area that is likely to see flash flooding. By then the next day, getting into Thursday, we see that expanding through Louisiana into Mississippi. Now, this is an area that's in exceptional drought. We do need the rainfall, but it still could be too much at once, even up into Tennessee, where we're in drought, we need rain, but the ground is frozen. So now we bring in all this rainfall, and that could cause some flash flooding. We have rain and flood watches here across eastern Texas, a lot of Louisiana, and really Mississippi and Alabama, a good chunk of the northern half of the state. Through Thursday, those might be expanded as we see the rain just move east in time. Right now, the heaviest of rain is stretching on an I-20 stretch from Dallas to Shreveport. Some lightning embedded within that. Lufkin, Texas, you're about to get into some heavier rainfall too. And in Houston, so far the rain has been light, but that is going to be changing in the next, say, 6 to 12 hours. We see more showers through the afternoon. This evening brings in the heavy rainfall overnight, and then tomorrow morning, after a mess of rainfall, I think it's going to be a tough commute in and around the Houston area. Conroe, Katy, up towards Huntsville, it's going to be pretty wet out there, and it adds up to about 2 to 3 inches of rainfall, which is why we are concerned about flash flooding. We'll especially be watching the rainfall rates in Houston and really everywhere. That drives the flash flooding. When the rain starts coming down at 1 inch or 2 per hour, then you start to really worry about getting into flash flooding concerns. Alexandria, light showers for now. It gets heavier. Watch what happens through the day today and overnight. Heavy rain comes in and soaking everyone here. I-10, I-49, I-20. Look at Vicksburg in Mississippi. Likely that this is mainly just rain, probably some embedded lightning and thunder. But of course, we always do watch out for that risk of any severe weather as well. I think flooding with this kind of rain, though, is going to be our biggest concern, Alex. And a couple of inches of rain here. Believe it or not, Southern California saw this much rain yesterday. Almost. That you are here with us here through the mid-morning hours. We'll keep you prepared for what's ahead.
Weather Channel has you covered from coast to coast and from the Mexican border all the way to the Canadian border. We've got a whole lot of changes ongoing that are bringing problems with them.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we are all talking about how this warm-up is taking place, but the warm-up is the reason why we've been dealing with some of this freezing rain problem over the last couple of days.
It's true. I mean, you can blame the warmer temperatures. It's why we've got freezing rain, fog.
All of it.
Thunderstorms.
Thunderstorms. I mean, right, this cold air is sluggish to get on out, and sometimes when warm air tries to push it on out, it's not doing it so effectively near the ground. It comes in aloft, so you can rain. The ground is still cold, and you get ice. And Alex, you have more on that in the Midwest.
Yeah, that's an area that's still hanging on to that threat here right now. And boy, it was a problem across parts of the Midwest in Missouri. How about some crazy video coming out of that zone?
No, I don't think we have any ice storm warnings out there, but we have for some stunt driving, or girl, whoever it was. Maybe it was a girl. But seriously, freezing rain, look, you know, everyone is impacted by it. It doesn't matter what kind of tires you have. It's freezing rain creates such a slick condition.
It's winter's worst. And Alex, there you go. There's your segue. Now you can cover it.
It is winter's worst, and we still have a little
32. There's plenty of pockets where the cold air just kind of gets stuck, especially northern Pennsylvania, the rolling hills. It's more the valley locations that will have a problem right now than it will be even as you get up in elevation, because the warm air is coming up higher. This zone, northern Pennsylvania, southern New York, this is going to be an area to watch over the next couple of hours. Winter weather advisory up, where we could see a little bit of freezing rain there. Could also see some snow in places like Albany and back towards Western Mass, including Springfield there. You could see a little bit of snow, but it's going to be kind of a wet, sloppy snow and not a lot. I'll show you how this plays out. Buffalo 32, Binghamton 32. Both are getting snow right now. It is so hard to forecast these mixed precip types. I checked Wilkes-Barre and Scranton at the airport there. They're getting unknown precip is what it's called. It's probably either freezing rain or sleet or a mix of the two. And we're going to be dealing with that, I think, for the next couple of hours. We'll see the warm air start coming in. In Pittsburgh, it's already here. We're already above freezing, and we're only going higher. So we're heading up into the 40s. But you notice how we get these little nooks and crannies of some frozen precip, even overnight tonight in northeastern Pennsylvania. By the way, I did check Erie and Bradford, where we had some freezing rain earlier, but we're up above freezing now, and the trend is just up from there. And you see that in your forecast through tomorrow afternoon, everyone going above freezing. Now, Boston, we're starting at 39 degrees. So let's look through today, and we could see some snow by tonight. I feel like this is the timing of it coming in overnight will allow us to get some snow. And then as we get through tomorrow, things turn warm. So we finish with rainfall. We could get a little bit, I would think, some new accumulation in your yard, maybe not necessarily on the streets in the city, but there could be some new stuff out there. You know, watching about 1 to 3 in most spots is the max. Mountain locations have a chance to get a little bit more, but even up in the mountains, rain is going to be overtaking because we do have warmer air surging in. Now, in terms of ice, again, it's minimal in terms of how much we can expect. Not a lot is showing up here in this forecast, but the minimal amounts still create some travel issues. So we see that here getting through tomorrow afternoon or evening. Be careful, Interstate 80 travelers, and leading to it. The other thing to worry about in the south is that with the warming up, we've got some thunderstorms.
Jen,
First, just to give you some perspective, all the flooding that we saw. We had reports of flooding up around the Bay Area, Inland Valley. We saw lots coming out of Southern California, especially moving down the coast to San Diego. But even up around Newport Beach, Temecula, there were some reports of flooding, Oceanside. And the numbers coming in, like this 2.73 that we saw in San Diego at the airport, this is the wettest January day on record. It's our 4th wettest all-time day on record, and it's about more than a month's worth of rain, or about a month's worth of rain in a little less than 6 hours. So, I mean, significant amount of moisture for us here in Southern California. And there's more to come as we see systems lined up, ready to go. The moisture this time is going to be more pointed at the northwest in terms of the most intense amounts of moisture coming on in. So we'll watch that over the next several days. But there's at least 3 systems out here that are going to help guide this moisture right into the coast. So get ready. It's going to be a busy end to the week. Again, today's kind of our off day, but rain comes in, watching it through at least the end of the weekend. Some of this will bring heavy rain at times, and snow levels are going to be high. Overall, this is not a cold system, so still looking at some higher snow levels as we watch the forecast. There'll be snow, but again, up at elevation, probably above, at least above 7,000 or 8,000 feet down here in the Sierra. Rainfall amounts a couple of inches, maybe even 3 to 5 or 5 to 8 inches of rain. That'll put us in concerned territory for flash flooding. And then as it spreads, and then there'll be some snow areas that we have to watch as well. And we have a smattering of precip right now in Elko, 33 degrees with some light snow. Salt Lake City will get some light precip out of this as well today. But watch what happens getting into the weekend. Greg, it is just begins tomorrow and then nonstop as we get to the end of the weekend.
nonstop is right, Jen. Thank you.
It's me to Boston Common, where where this week we're going to see a midweek warm up, and that'll replace the wintry weather, which we'll get some of, a little bit of snow, but then we'll get a mix of rain and snow, and then we're going to turn this over to mostly rain showers. You know, Boston, we finally warmed up above freezing yesterday after spending nearly 6 days below freezing. That kind of cold hasn't happened in the last 2 winters. So you got your real winter, and now look what's happening. Rain is in the forecast. We are going to see a warm up here, and it happens for all of us in the Northeast. Boston is a great example, though, as tonight and to tomorrow, you know, we'll get a little snow, but then by Wednesday night, we're 37 degrees with rain, and then we're nearly 50, and we stay up there in either the 40s or near 50 into Friday with rain in the forecast all the way through the extended period. The reason why this is happening is this big ridge in the jet stream that's going to allow temperatures to soar. But honestly, even if you're not right under this ridge, the warmth is everywhere. There's no cold air at the moment, no Arctic air at the moment. There'll be some, there'll be spots that are at or near freezing. That's the nature of winter. But even, with the above average conditions and the fact that we're so far above average, when we get these disturbances that come in, it ends up being rainfall and mainly rain. So we see that across the Midwest. We're talking Michigan. We're talking across the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic. We will have some snow to start. We've been seeing that this morning even. And, as we see this first big wave push up with the moisture, Chicago, we're warm enough that it's rain. There'll be a little area that we have to keep an eye on tomorrow morning, that on the northern edge of that precip that could be freezing rain. We'll do it again on Thursday as that next wave comes up. And again, that northern edge is where the cold air might get socked in at the surface. But overall, you see more green than any other colors on the map, indicating that it is rain. Up to an inch in most spots. The heavier stuff will be moving up into Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, maybe getting into parts of West Virginia as well. And then the Northeast, we do have, again, some wintry weather to start, mainly New England, but you see how the warm air just overtakes it. That's sort of the flavor of all this. I don't want to discount a little bit of freezing rain that you could have in spots, because that could cause some problems, but it does get warm, Alex, and it turns into rain as we wrap up the end of the week for almost everybody.
Yeah, well, we will take that over the frozen